So, excellent.
And I'm going back here.
Yeah. My name is Becca Heaver, and I'm the district manager at Council Creek Conservation District. And I sat in on a group that was developed out of WACD and whatever it's called. I can't remember the word right now. Resolution that took the floor. And so basically, we have needs of smaller districts that often need to be filled in creative ways. And so Zora did a really good job. She started the baby. I'm here ending the things. And there was a lot of interaction with district managers and surveys that went out to see what were some of those things that we were missing and how could we start figuring out the highest priority to the lowest priority. And we've kind of been introducing this and kind of talking about it over the last, I'd say, year, because at WACD, there was another, you guys can see what we're looking for the survey. If you're interested in seeing that, Heather or Zora would be the people to come to. Heather, because she's far more organized. And it gave us a lot of really interesting data, but the things that we zeroed in on were the need for human resources. A lot of us are getting into thicker, deeper, marshier waters, and it's getting a little less clear of how to act and I guess react to certain situations. So the human resources aspect, oh, is this it? Perfect, the white paper. Nice. We have a white paper. That would be helpful to see.
Sharing it.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so this is basically a synopsis of everything that we found with the human resources, legal counsel, information technology, file data management and archiving, financial consulting for software, grant writing, capacity building, and training and education. These are all big needs that we were able to just dive into and figure out. And honestly, I'm really excited about it because I know that there's work being done. At least 4 of them have been done or just, are working through some of those things. So, like WACD, they have that legal counsel thing for those members now, which is really exciting. There's a couple hours for that. Information and technology, we're going to have Joe from Enduris, and he's going to help introduce kind of the things that they've been working on to help solve our problems and fill our needs. Yeah, so that's it. I'm going to just leave it there because I really am not as into this as you. You've been living here. So I'm going to kick it off and hand it to Heather.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Heather Wendt, Director of Development Engagement with WACD. As Becca said, the Shared Resources Work Group did come out of a 2022 WACD resolution. And I've had the pleasure of working with this work group since 2023. And one of the things that we did when I started working with them, we wanted to reach out to conservation districts to see, we know they had all of these different needs, but what was their highest priority need? So the first step in the process, we conducted a survey. And that survey basically showed that human resources was the highest priority need for conservation districts. And so we can scroll down.
And there we go. Okay.
So we have natural resources as the highest priority need. Information technology was the second highest priority need. And of course, we didn't really survey about legal services because one of the first successes of this work group was to partner with WACD. WACD hired an attorney and basically they provide to conservation districts who are in good standing, those that have paid their dues, 1 hour of free legal consultation to conservation districts. And that can be anything from you have a personnel issue, you have a contract that you want to have reviewed. It is basically whatever you need. And then after that 1 hour of free service, you can have services at a reduced rate. The consultant, the legal firm that we work with knows conservation districts. They've worked for conservation districts in the past. And so you have a legal firm that understands the work that you do. And so that was the first deliverable that came out of this particular work group. So we did the survey and Right. Well, so then what? So we know what your next highest priority needs are as conservation districts. And so we looked to our partners and started having conversations with Enduris, because when your insurance provider hears that you have human resource needs, well, ding, ding, ding. That's probably a cue that that's a risk area. And so we've been talking to Joe, and Joe's going to tell you some of the things that he's working on as far as HR services go. But as many of you know, or if you don't know, our executive director at WACD is kind of an IT nerd. We love him, but he is. He's kind of an IT guru. And he, for information technology, he reached out to a firm, a computer firm in Washington State, and said, you know, we have this legal services fund. We want to do something similar for IT support for conservation districts. What could that look like? We want to create an IT help desk. And so the firm, Olympia Computer, said, oh, well, that's kind of interesting. We might consider doing that. Of course, their goal, right, would be that you would actually hire them. But let me just tell you, so the IT services is in our budget. Let me just tell you that now. This next fiscal year budget, Monday, June 17th, the WACD board will meet and will approve or not approve the budget. So what I'm telling you about today is contingent on that budget being approved. If you really want an hour of free IT support, you know, maybe shoot the board an email. Call into the meeting. So what that 1 hour of free IT support, what would they do, right? What would they do for you if this is approved? They could provide support for all of your current software as needed. These people are experts. They work with all different types of technology. They can do it remotely, and if they have to, they can certainly come on site. You could use that hour to have them do a technology review of your systems, right? If you needed software upgrades, you know, they could help you install those software upgrades. If you wanted them to help you start creating a library of all the software and technology that you're using, and the cost and the dates, and like really help you start sort of analyzing what you have and what you might need, they have the expertise to sort of help get you on that path. This one's my favorite. Printers. How many of you have to buy a new printer and then have to set it up to the network? And it takes you forever, right? You know, I would help manage conservation districts, 2 conservation districts in Eastern Washington. I'm a biologist. I am not, you know, an IT person. But oftentimes in conservation districts that are small, you know, we don't have someone on staff who is an IT expert. So we either have to go out and hire for services that are very, very expensive, or we have someone in the office do it for us, or we get stuck doing it ourselves, right? And if it's not just turning the computer on and be off and turning it back on to reboot and hope it fixes, you know, I'm kind of in trouble. So they will help you hook up new technology to your network. You know, router updates, firmware, et cetera, et cetera. So this firm has a lot of capacity. They have the ability to do a lot of this remotely. But this is our sort of first step in trying to help districts get the services that they need initially. And then as districts, if districts choose to hire this company, the more districts that participate, the lower their rate goes, okay? So that's just an incentive on their end, right, to get people to sign up. So we're not saying you should or shouldn't go with this firm. We're saying that this is an option. And we're saying that we as WACD are going to recommend to our board that we provide this help desk to really start providing some much needed support to conservation districts. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joe.
Okay.
to talk about HR and then some of the IT support that you're working on potentially.
How much time do you want to do both?
As
Take home hard job.
We're just winging it, I guess. Anything to get about it. Okay, so I attended in Wenatchee at the annual conference. Zora and Renee were talking about shared services, and I thought, well, I work with Zora and Renee a lot. I don't know what shared services are, but I'm going to listen to them talk a little bit. And it was really cool listening to them talk about how conservation districts can collaborate. I don't get to experience that with every type of district type that Enduris works with. We have 17 different types of districts. Conservation districts are one of those types of special purpose districts. But you're definitely more collaborative. And so I was thinking, well, what can we do to get some skin in the game? I talked with Heather about it as well, and Heather's tenacious. That's a good word to me. So she wasn't gonna let go, and we were down a path. And so, believe it or not, when I got shared that survey that Heather had up there, HR is probably the number one issue for most of our district types, not just conservation districts. So you don't feel alone in that. And people tell the story that I was really good at what I did, then I got promoted, now I'm in charge of people, now what? And so I've always wanted to get an HR in the box product for our members ever since I came to Enduris, but it's hard to get an affiliation. Enduris is a member of Associated Industries. That was up on the board a second ago. We started talking to Associated Industries, what can we do? And so we don't have an affiliation partnership yet. A proposal's on the table. I actually kind of slid it back over to them, and I said, well, we gotta do a little more for our districts. We got 500 total conservation districts, especially excited about this. I know Associated Industries was here and did a couple of presentations. I don't know if they were selling their product, doing a little advertisement on what they offer. But it's a terrific product, and the more I get into it, the more I believe Enduris members are truly going to benefit from the materials that they have available. So what you're looking at on the screen is their tiered services. And Enduris is looking to affiliate. We'll have some skin in the game, and all of our districts members will have skin in the game too, because they'll have to join in partnership with Associated Industries to receive their services. That's the regular prices. We're still working out the negotiated rates for the affiliation. And we're looking for discounting. It won't be deep discounting. They have lawyers on staff. They have HR consultants and specialists. Those people apparently have to eat too. So the basic services, it's $615 a year. Just navigating around in that alone, you'll get your money's worth if you want a legally vetted and updated year by year employee manual. If you want, yeah, I think that was worth it right there. I started looking at it with them and our IT person who kind of navigates through this for us, and that alone I felt was worth the subscription. You get a lot of other templates too. I remember Becca, we were having a phone conference, and you said, I want to know everything about FMLA. Where's my document? And they have that. You can just download it. It's there. You don't have to read it. But you can still download it, and it's legally vetted and it's updated. So, but the benefit, and this is where I'm going to sell back, is the executive membership gives you an HR hotline.
Yes.
And you can call and just ask a question. still call Enduris when somebody's wearing out the welcome, like the presentation yesterday morning. But if you say, hey, I want to redo my manual, I changed this section here, I want to understand if this is a conflict, and they can probably dig in and help you with your executive membership on that. Further, you can see the job description builder, the interview question builder. They have a pretty robust library of templates and documents. And you can even access most of those on the basic subscription. And hopefully that won't hurt the budget too much to buy in. And I'm working on the affiliation so we can do so.
So a word of wisdom, right? Don't run out and sign up with them just yet, because if they do, they don't get the discount, right?
Yeah. I say you can sign up for these services if you want, but it's those rates, and we're still working on the final rates. We'll launch an announcement. I'm pretty sure we'll do that before the next renewal term, which starts September 1st. It'll probably be this summer when nobody's reading their email because we're somewhat nice, because it's nice in Washington this summer. Take advantage of that. But we'll roll it out, and we'll have different tiers, just like they're offering here. There will be some discounted pricing. And if you need the document today, $650. Get your discount. Get your discount next year.
That's my question.
I don't know. Kathy retired, so you're on your own now. Maybe you could hire her for a volunteer or something like that. That one was built in the ground up. Yeah, that was awesome.
This is meant to be a roundtable, and I encourage conversations because I don't know about you guys. I have a lot of sidebar conversations with my financial manager. When her brain's on something, she just comes in and she's like, "Oh," and I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know these answers," and it's stressful because that's the type of thing HR and the human aspect of it seems to kind of always be there. You don't always know the answers. And you kind of throw yourself in that vulnerability where you're like, I'm just going to go with my I think he's right, just enough information. And, you know, like that, you've all been in this headspace, you've been thinking about it. So you've got two very smart individuals that have been doing a lot of behind the scenes work for us. I mean, Zora and Renee, they kicked this thing off. And I honestly have no idea how I got in it, but I'm here. We have it all the time. Here.
She just got sucked in, and she just jumped right in, as always. That is fun.
So, yeah, it's organically evolving, and it's been happening for a while, and now I think it's at the point where everyone's having this conversation, and so take the time to have the conversation. I know it's early. I know a lot of us have been doing power hours, naps, basically. It all feels like a nap.
You can throw chocolate.
But there's chocolate. There's chocolate.
Yeah. You ask a question, she'll throw chocolate at you.
You. Jill, I have a question. Is this gonna be on top of my Enduris rate already? Is that what I'm gonna answer?
Yeah, it's an affiliation. So it's pretty much the announcement of a soon to be announced partnership with Associated Industries. So that will be a budget line for member districts that want to purchase into these services. The benefit will be some discounting. There's some additional project type of work that Associated Industries will do as well. If you just said, here's my employee manual, nobody's looked at it for 10 years, do your worst, and they'll.
We're in the process of that with them right now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And it's been so nice.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
There.
Oh, I thought that was chocolate.
I have two questions. One of them is, can you talk a little bit more about the employment law guidance on like the unionized district? How much support or services are involved in that whole process? Negotiating, bargaining. That would be a good question. Yes, we get. further down the line to explore, because we're very interested and would want a little more information about.
Okay, and I don't want to oversell the product. I don't, that was not part of the conversation, Sarah, but, I think they did tell me they work with some larger governmental entities, and I think they were kind of implying they have membership with some cities, so I assume there's a lot of cities that are utilized.
Well,
I don't know if they're not.
I think you guys are like, well, that's a whole lot of their interested, right?
You could potentially, like he said, buy up services. So what you have here is sort of their baseline, and that may be an added service that you may have to purchase up to have them, depending on the level of assistance. Like if you were like, I don't want to negotiate with my union, staff. I want someone else to do it. They probably have attorneys on staff that would potentially negotiate those contracts. I know. Well, no, I'm just saying though, but picnics is different from negotiating a contract. Well, you're negotiating the contract. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I forgot. I'm a C, remember? I'm very compartmentalized over here.
Contract. For folks in the room, like these prices look achievable for everybody, because I look at that and I'm like, I'm gonna find that in the budget, right? But is anybody feel like, gosh, I wish I had that, well, I can't squeeze that out of whatever, that would be a conversation you'd want to have with the WACD and the commission about it. This is great, and like, 20 years later, we got to, it's great that we have this now, and we should have that. That's not enough, it's just like realizing how sophisticated that we are, we're like.
Much bigger.
There.
Most of the districts are much bigger than they used to be. Yeah, finding in the budget is something I talked with Heather a little bit about to see, and I think year one is going to be kind of a get to know the product. I think you can get some testimonials from Spokane County Conservation District or others that will affiliate and find out their experiences with it, or they can even walk through, but Associated Industries is also going to do a webinar with Enduris to discuss some of their services once we announce that affiliation. And they will walk through services, they will discuss, address questions. So what I'd like to see just in the long-term vision, because I'm a risk manager at Enduris, I want to see districts, not just conservation districts, but Enduris members start buying into this program. And I want to see Holly's hours, reduce because she's the claims director. I want to see Kelly's hours, reduce because he's the claims director. I want to see our cost of claims go down on HR and track those things. If we see the return on that, I think it'll be really easy for Enduris to invest into it further and strengthen the affiliation.
Follow-up question. Can I just directly rate if we're related to that? We already, my understanding is that conservation districts already have the lowest claim rate of all of Enduris's districts. Did that change now?
They're kind of lower center tier. So you're not like high risk.
I thought that you had said either last year or the year before that in terms of maybe either payout or something, we cost you the least, basically. And so I just wonder if you're going to see the kind of return on investment from us because we are already managing things so well for you and if perhaps that could be a benefit because our claims are lower. And I'll look back at my notes because I'm sure I have them. Because they're lower, we could be provided a greater discount than other districts, other types of districts who have a lot more claims. Like you guys could actually help pay for this for organizations who don't have as many claims.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good thought process, and I think that'll evolve. I think over time as we start looking into the conservation districts are actually, when we're talking about the HR tier, they're up there. And overall, maybe in relation to some of our other larger member types. Gosh, I shouldn't name names, but yeah, sometimes you just kind of scratch your head and wonder, but you're lower risk. And they pay a higher rate. But we have member types that pay a rate that's 5 times your rate in liability. We have members that pay a rate that's more in multiple of your liability rate. Conservation districts have a pretty decent rate because your claims are favorable. But yeah, we got a few other member types that are just like, we don't even notice that we insure them most of the time.
Whoa.
Yes.
I also have 2 questions. I saw with the standard, it was, I think, 30 or less employees. For the basic, is there any cap on the number of employees? No.
I don't think so.
And in the middle of that, it says webinar library access. So do we, as an organization, have multiple logins? Like, can any of our staff log in and?
Enduris has one login, and Ulrich is our HR IT person. And because we have a lot of hats in Enduris, but he's HR, he has the password. And since he's IT, he's trying to figure out a way to share it with me. We're just talking, yeah, happens all the time. So the reason why there's tiers on the executive program is you actually get to talk with lawyers, and they know the larger you are, the busier the lawyers are going to be.
Right, but if we just did basic, that webinar library access, is that only for like your HR staff?
Yeah. As far as I know, Enduris has one login.
We have 2, but we also have a shared services kind of agreement with them, so we're not a typical contract, so I'm not really sure how that works, but we do have 2.
Do we do the contract with Associated Industries or we're signing up?
Yeah, we did a contract with Associated Industries as a Enduris member.
Well, my question is it supposed to be one-on-one, or do they provide workshops or classes type things like some of the associations?
Yeah, I think you got a little test of that at Wade this year. They sent 2 people over to speak on Monday, and they will do webinars. They have newsletter updates. They have alerts if there's a new law passed and it affects employment practices. So they'll feed you information. You'll get that drip. Ulrich from our office said it's not so much that it's overwhelming or you just start ignoring it because you get a new email every day. A lot of content, but
They do have like supervisor boot camps and HR on our 3-day conferences, and those are extra. They're not built into the membership.
and I shared with Heather, that's 1 page out of 6. They have a whole suite of direct services that they'll provide too. And what they initially offered was you don't have to subscribe or affiliate with them in order to get their member rate for their services. So you might have the opportunity to trial it, still get a discounted rate to have your HR manual reviewed or something like that. And that's a direct service. It has a cost also. But I don't think it's crazy because it's not something you have to do every year necessarily. You get it legally vetted, and then they'll feed you updates as a member. And then at some point you want it reviewed.
There's that background screening you were talking about.
Dude, yeah.
Was, you say this is potentially start this relationship to start this summer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I attended the AI, conference, the escalation talk on Monday, And I don't know how many of you were in there, but towards the end, she said, oh, and if you haven't updated your staff handbook, since January, you're out of compliance. Especially within the next month, we could
Yeah.
be able to have the resources.
They sent me an offer last week and I was like wanting to announce it here, but I just kind of slipped back a little bit. And said, oh, let's try a little harder.
Touching in with Joe, don't worry. I'll be touching base with Joe, he knows. No vacation for you.
Yeah, I wanted to mention the background screening and driver check also, and you can do drug testing. Enduris, for our own employees, we do that background screening for our new employees through Associated Industries. I used to affiliate at my last employer with a $2 billion insurance company. We couldn't get a national rate that was less than $30. And they put together their own program. They have a copyright on it, and they will do a national database check for background screening for $10 as an associated member. So that's some members that have, I'm talking about fire districts that have a lot of drivers and they put a lot into their background screening process in place. That they're going to get a lot of payback on just by pulling into that service.
Has anybody looked into their health plans that they do? Health. I was just curious.
Yeah, Enduris looked at it several years ago. They turned us down because we were too old.
I'm a very tough workforce.
Yeah, and that's probably to your advantage because we had a lot of people gearing up for retirement, and we just found it more advantageous to be on a private carrier. But yeah, we've been talking about RFPing, and again, it's a pain, it's a hassle, but and it's not my job, thankfully. But they do have a product out there. So does AWC, the Association of Washington Cities, for health insurance coverage. And those are two good avenues. But you have to be a member of Associated Industries to be eligible for their benefit plan.
I get a follow-up, and so like these other services, you have to be a member first and then you can access like the screening and such.
Yeah, if you're a member, you can have access to those services. And what they proposed is that for the first year, if you're not a member, you could still access those services at their member rates and just test them out a little bit.
So I have a question for the group. How many of you remember NRCS's Earth Team Volunteer Program? Raise your hands. Earth Team Volunteer Program. Okay, so you may know that it's not currently active in Washington State. That's where your volunteers could sign up through NRCS. And they would be Earth Team volunteers, and you would report their hours, and it could potentially, NRCS would then accept some liability for those volunteers. How many of you would be interested in seeing that program come back?
Yeah.
I don't know. We're going to find out. So WACD is currently working with NRCS to potentially facilitate the resurrection of that Earth Team volunteer program. And so that might be another avenue when you're talking about management of volunteers and liability for volunteers. That may hopefully be coming back sometime this year.
Was there an background screening as part of their vetting process?
I'll have a meeting in 2 weeks, and I will get more information on that.
Awesome.
Yes.
More questions? Past concerns? Tomatoes for Joe?
Oh, just a minute. Can I talk about IT services real quick? Again, another thing that hasn't been signed, but we're committed to is all of our members that have property coverage, and I assume that's most of the conservation districts, if not all. They also have cyber coverage with Enduris. Ransomware, hacking, data denial, you know, there's all kinds of different types of, fraudulent instruction claims. That's the one we're really getting hit by right now. Where somebody gets into your email server, can monitor the email address of your finance director, monitor payment, authorization levels, intercept the bill that's due and change the reference number on it. There's a lot of spooks going on. We're partnering with a company called Kind. This spell is kind of edgy, KYND. They're a British firm and they're tied with Lloyd's of London, who provides the cyber coverage, and that's where the partnership comes from. And they've offered to provide some IT tightness services, and we're gonna do that free of charge for the next policy year. Still working through the details, but what their service provides is a tightness test on your district's website. That's usually the gateway to get either encryption on your website or your information, or theft of your information. And they will come back to each member with a report. I'm not sure the steps yet, but you will have it's really simple, just a stoplight, green, yellow, or red. You'll have a report back on, if you're yellow, what could be done to improve your tightness. And sometimes those things can be resolved immediately, just with an update. If you're red, we're gonna try to work to get you, down the stoplight there. And more to come on that. We're also negotiating if they can put together a survey for each member's IT staff or whoever does IT to fill out, just to see how they're doing on their cybersecurity checks. And what it's going to talk about are things like multi-factor authentication. Who has that already? We can't log into our system at Enduris without multi-factor authentication. You're not able to get on your bank account probably without multi-factor authentication. That's where you get a text and it gives you a code. You type in the code, and that's after you type in your personal password. So multi-factor authentication, backups, offsite, and then a few other things to check on. And some of that might require some extra handling, and Enduris is trying to figure out what their investment into it is. And it might be a 1-year trial balloon, so take advantage of it. If we send you the survey, they're going to come back with some consultative help. If you get a red or a yellow on your stoplight, you get a little bit of time now to get those things resolved. At some stage, because cyber is such a big deal now, we think our members are going to have to fill out an application to be eligible for cyber coverage in the future. And if you don't have certain steps in place, you'll just be excluded from the cyber program. So then you're on your own. You're an individual purchase. You don't even know you're paying for that right now because we just include it as our property coverage. But if you went to individual purchase, it'd be $2,000 to $5,000 or more. Just to get a $1 million limit, you have $2 million limit now. So this next year, we're going to try to work with as many members as we can to firm them up. I'm not your IT support. I'm not a biologist either. I'm just an insurance guy. So we're getting some help for our members that are specialized. More to come on that. I'm doing an announcement around renewal time.
That would dovetail nicely with the WACD's IT support.
With the help desk, because then you can say, here, I got this report. What can I do?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Mr. Barrow?
I was wondering, like the work group has taken on 1 or 2 things every year, take a bite out of that apple. If this is the 2024 bite and the survey had a whole bunch of different options, what might be the next thing the work group works on? Or does it feel like the work groups minutes full and it's not gonna meet again.
That is up to the chairs.
Okay.
And I think we're going to send this draft white paper out amongst you, get your feedback, and then see where it goes from there. We did legal. Yeah.
Grant writing and fundraising.
Database management.
One of the things with human resources is the two top requests were, like, thing that you could contract with, like what you're talking about, but that's still on district staff to do all of it, basically. And the second, highest request, was a contractor who we could, contract with and share across districts. Similar to the lawyer situation, but I think our needs are such that we would need multiple people working full-time, basically, for districts. If we were gonna cover everybody, which I know that wouldn't be realistic. But I don't know, I know that both Renee and I, are pretty busy and we'll see.
It's like, it feels like the baby's thing.
It does. We put this baby out and now somebody else needs to carry this baby. Do you want to?
It's all on the committee.
So if,
Don't remember anymore.
oh, no, that's okay. So we have 11 district managers from across the state. So like she said, Zora and Renee are chairs. Becca is a member. Anybody? Huh? Yeah,
That makes
yes.
sense.
Anybody else in this room on the committee because it's early? Oh, Heather's. Oh, does it? I've forgotten what I've written
Oh.
already.
Mhm.
Yes.
Gosh, yeah, so we're allowed.
Yes. Now, a lot of those folks have fallen off. And that's why I think, when you do sort of the top, needs and people see movement, the work group, it's tough. They're meeting, once a month. It takes a lot of work, a lot of, WACD staff time. And so we'll just kind of see what the need is, but we might also look at, if Zora and Renee are kind of done and others want to do more work, then we'll discuss that with the president of WACD and see if we want to kind of rework that with them.
Scroll back to the survey responses. So I'm seeing like the two top are being addressed. And then training is hopefully, that's like the thing we're hoping, right? Is building this training and that's with CPD. And that's gonna be really helpful. And then the rest of them seem to fall in there somehow is my hope. So hopefully this is a really good foundation, covered up for a lot of those types of buildings.
Contracting and procurement, was, it ranks lower on here, but it's something that we've all consistently talked about. And I would imagine that that's a decently high risk category. At least as we, is that any kind of service that would that HR firm do something, or is there some kind of,
It depends on how far you go with when you say contracting, because we already provide services in relation to the risk pool, and that's usually for insurance requirements and indemnification provisions. But all the steps like the recital and the purpose and the all the other details of the work, that we consider that an operational decision, and every entity has a different risk tolerance, so it's hard for us to steer, because I think Enduris might be risk averse in most cases in a contract review, so you might not appreciate what, how we get into your operations. So we've always kind of tried to be neutral unless the insurance and indemnification are overpromising.
I'll read this from Val. This is kind of going back to the health insurance. We recently switched to Washington County's insurance fund for medical, dental, vision, basic life, EAP, disability, and a variety of employee paid optional products. Quite a suite of choices that are competitive with PEB without all the strings. Districts qualify for a membership based on public funding, but it doesn't have to be taxes or even rates and charges. They also don't have the 3-year minimum commitment like Associated Washington Cities requires. Counties, Washington County's insurance fund
Cities for the ones that.
for the 3-year.
Yeah, the
Oh.
other one is the city's pool called AWC, Association of Washington City.
Mhm.
I mean, it's Cascadia. We just switched beginning of this month. But yeah, we have, so Mason had Washington County's insurance fund. So we shopped around, we had private party and it was not good. And within a month or two, we need to change it.
Yeah.
So, we looked around and the Association of Washington Cities required a big, to get sponsored by a city. To join, and they have other memberships, other things like that. So, but it's also has similar products as PEB and such too, but they also don't have strings that PEB has around liability reporting and the retirement side. Or no. And so
Post-employment benefits.
yeah, that's long-term,
Yeah.
long-term reporting on paid reporting stuff that these ones don't. So there's some benefits.
Yeah.
How many workers and number of employees?
I don't think there's a minimum. They didn't talk about that. There's some minimums on like, if you don't have a lot of employees, you can only offer one plan. But you can offer multiple plans and all kinds of cool stuff. They also tell you get rates in like October and not November 15th or something.
Also get bonus grants. Use the amount of the grant you can go forward.
Yeah.
No, I gotta wrap up.
But
Last question.
Cultural resources, any bond that for us, for the maker is a rooted in that was passed by these. Until try to get funding from the legislature to get a program like we have for engineers coming to districts, or we can start coming together and figuring out how much workload we have, at least try to place it for get on this on the west side of the state and we're trying to help everyone. Our goal is to stay very busy, so maybe at least start by trying to gather some districts in the vicinity of Mason and have this conversation, figure out how many people or how many districts we might need to come together and make this work. I think that you can support a couple of FTE between a certain number of us. So anyone interested in having that conversation, maybe you can I'll try to pull everyone together and we can have that conversation.
Well, we don't want to be part of the committee. Sounds like another one's forming.
Yes.
If you have any questions, Joe's pretty friendly. And you can ask it, and then Heather's, amazing.
I was an endorsement.
It'll go on your review.
Feels good. And liability free.
Awesome. Yep, we're around. If you have questions, don't hesitate. We're taking care of it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.